Okay, Mrs. Jordan, you are live.
Thank you. Okay. If everybody will please mute their phones. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to begin this afternoon's board meeting. There's a lot of feedback, so I apologize for that. The school board meeting of March 24th, 2020 is now called to order. The time is 1:02. Unfortunately, Ms. Fisher is not able to be with us for the start of this meeting. However, may be able to join us later.
Ms. Jordan, if I could interrupt real quick, could you please turn down your volume on your end? Just turn the volume down on the actual stream, and that should help get rid of some of the feedback. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Following the recommendations of Governor DeSantis and the Florida Department of Education, this meeting will be held virtually, streamed live, and will be posted to the district YouTube channel. Upon completion of the meeting, please mute your phone when you are not speaking. Findings. The School Board of Lee County School Board is holding a virtual board meeting in order to address specific matters related to the current declared state of emergency related to COVID-19 and to ensure the school district's operations may continue. The statement explains the school board's findings related to the need to hold a virtual public meeting and the ability of the public to access the virtual public meeting. The school board's findings are as follows. Pursuant to Governor DeSantis, Executive Order 20-51, 20-52, and 20-69, in which the governor declared a public health emergency and a state of emergency, there is a recommendation to limit public gatherings. Lee County has also declared an emergency as a result of COVID-19, public health emergency. The governor's Executive Order 2069 suspends any Florida statute that requires a quorum to be present in person or requires a local government body to meet at a specific public place. Additionally, the governor's Executive Order 2069 authorizes local government bodies to utilize communication media technology such as telephonics and video conferencing as provided in Section 120.545B2 Florida statute. During this declaration health emergency, compliance with the physical quorum and public attendance requirements of the Sunshine Law could jeopardize
Someone has left the conference.
Members and the general public. Consistent with the authority contained in the governor's executive order, and in order to ensure the health and safety and welfare of the public, district staff, and board members of the School Board of Lee County, the school board finds that it is in the best interest of the school board to hold this virtual public meeting, which is being held in substantial compliance with Section 286001 Florida statute, Florida's Sunshine Law. Therefore, the school board will be holding this virtual meeting.
Someone has joined the conference.
All members of the public may listen to the meeting via YouTube or on Comcast Channel 99 or CenturyLink Channel 89. A copy of the agenda can be found on the school board's website, www.leeschools.net. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest personal potential and the district vision to be the world-class school system. This afternoon's agenda includes the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, public comment, consent action items, which includes 1 item under executive services, 2 items under business services, 1 item under human services, 2 items under information system, as well as 7 items under operations, 1 item under attorney recommendation, and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Okay, when I ask the question, this is Betsy Vaughn. I'm experiencing a lot of feedback. It's difficult for me to understand everything.
This is Gwen.
Am I the only one with the feedback problem?
Okay, understand every other word.
Pardon me?
Did we have is anybody, can you not hear me when I'm speaking? Because I know I hear feedback as well.
This is John. It sounds like somebody may have the live feed on in the background, and so when somebody speaks, we're getting the echo, and that complicates it. So I'm not sure if that's being caused by somebody attending virtually, or if that's being caused by maybe it's being broadcast in the boardroom, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I'm getting an echo. That's mine. So what do we do to fix?
Wait
I guess
for
I'm kind of
directions
lost
from
right
Jason
now,
Phil,
so
please.
if somebody can give me some guidance, because we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
I think just,
Kathleen Morgan.
Okay.
Mr. Quick, Mr. Quick, could I ask?
yes.
A couple items. First of all, one of the reasons we wanted to have this meeting was because of the joint resolution. What has happened as a result of that joint resolution, I really feel that the governance team should be presenting a united front, and that was an area where there was some divisiveness that I could detect, and therefore we pulled that from the agenda. Once we did that, I've gotten conflicting information from our legal team regarding the emergency need to have the rest of the items. While I feel as superintendent they are important items for the operations of the school district, my understanding is that the recommendation which just came to me was that they did not constitute an emergency. That, coupled with the feedback of this technology, it would be my recommendation at this point not to move forward.
Oh, yes. So I assume that the feedback came from your legal team, and the analysis of an emergency nature of the items is done on an item-by-item basis. And the way that I have interpreted emergency is that it's essential for, or it's necessary for the essential functions of the district, and that there is some time-sensitive or other nature attached to the items that requires an action at this time. And if the ultimately
point of order? May I please call a point of order?
Yes.
I did not understand anything the superintendent said. Did not understand the vote. Everything is feedback. This is not working properly.
Yeah, same thing, Vaughn.
Can you please say your name when you speak?
I could not understand. What do we do to fix the echo?
Someone has joined the conference.
Mr. Quick?
yes. Okay,
Can you please direct us on what we need to be doing, please?
can I have everybody mute their phones, and maybe that will adjust the echo?
All right, Vaughn, I'm going to hang up and rejoin.
Okay, so, is there, Susan, can I ask you, is this being broadcast in the boardroom live where you are sitting?
Yes, it is, John.
Okay, I think that's where the feedback might be coming from. Is there a way to mute your microphone for the time being?
We just did.
Okay, let me try this again. What I understand from Dr. Adkins is that they have pulled the item under L1, which was for a declaration, a resolution declaring a local state emergency to continue from the superintendent's declaration, which falls under policy 1.18. As a result of that, he has consulted with his legal staff, who have advised that the remaining items do not necessarily constitute an emergency as specified under the Department of Education directives. And an emergency, as we have interpreted it and as guidances I have given to the district and staff, is that it is required for the essential functions of the school district, and there is some time-sensitive or other nature
Someone has left the conference.
to be taken. If ultimately the Department of Education directives, the most recent ones from March 17th, place the calling of a meeting within the exclusive purview of the superintendent, if he has deemed that these remaining items are not of an emergency nature, then yes, I would agree that there is not a basis to continue holding this meeting without the resolution.
Okay, so at this time, then, you are telling us that we should discontinue the meeting as it is at this moment.
Based upon the question that was phrased to me from,
Someone has joined the conference.
it sounds like that, but ultimately that direction or that continuance would have to come from the superintendent under the Department of Education guidelines. But if there's been a determination that the remaining items do not meet the emergency nature as required under those DOE directives, then yes, it should be continued.
Okay, so how would we discontinue the meeting at this point in time then? If that's the
I think
direction we should be
there would
going
be a
in.
motion to adjourn, recess the meeting, and then the superintendent, when there are items that come up that are of emergency nature, can reschedule a new meeting.
This is Gwen Gittens. Do we have an opportunity to say anything?
I'm sorry, I missed the last portion of that, Gwen.
I am very concerned. I did not hear or understand any part of this meeting because it is too broken up. I do not feel comfortable voting or amending or anything until I can understand what is being stated.
And I think that is part of the superintendent's consideration as well, from what it sounded like from his conversation or his discussion. I agree there's a lot of feedback. It's difficult to hear, and part of his consideration was also that difficulty in ensuring that the board members and the public are best able to have access to what's happening. You guys are informed about what you're voting on, can have a real discussion about it, and the public can be aware and informed and have an opportunity to be heard as well in a format that will allow for it, because the feedback currently is not allowing for that.
Okay, so, John, so then I'm going to recommend, because I hear every time that anybody speaks, you're hearing it in double and triplicate. So I would then recommend at this time, have a motion to.
Madam Chair, that's Yvonne. Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Yes, that's Yvonne. I wanted to comment before.
Please, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, although it was echoed, I heard what Ms. Gittin said. I've had the same problems, and I'm not even sure what we're doing at this point. We have other important business to move on that's, listed in our agenda. My question is to the superintendent and to the chair, how are we going to proceed and when are we going to proceed?
Well, I believe that, and Superintendent or John can please jump in at any time. I think that we need to find a better mechanism for us to be able to communicate so that it is clear for everyone who is hearing. Because as a lot have mentioned, it is hard to vote or speak on anything when we cannot understand what each other are saying.
Right, I get that, and I totally agree. But before we adjourn this meeting, I was hoping that we could at least have a plan of exactly when we can reconvene, or is it possible that, I don't know, it probably wouldn't go with sunshine to reconvene just as a regular conference call and set something. I just want direction on how, maybe not how, but when we're going to proceed, because we have lots of important business.
Correct. So,
can the superintendent answer that?
Can you answer that one?
I will, again, work with our team to try to, if we can come up with a better platform for us to have a conversation, period. At this point, after consulting with legal counsel and conversations that took place between Mr. Quick and our staff, we feel that since the joint resolution was pulled, that we have no reason to carry on with an action meeting at this point, period. We will, of course, need to have one later. So again, my recommendation after speaking with Mr. Williams earlier today, after he had talked with Mr. Quick, and we had agreed to pull the joint resolution, and there was some debate between our legal teams relative to the emergency nature of the other items, that we felt that we did no longer had to carry on with this board meeting today because those items, some felt were not of an emergency nature. We felt they were critical to our operation, but again, we wanted, legal affirmation of that and did not get that. So the recommendation that I received was to cancel the board meeting, but like I said, that came at the very last moment, and so that's where we are today.
Okay. So
if I may, my understanding,
you can hear. I hear you 100%. So I don't know if something just cleared up.
No, No, it's Dr.
Now it's
Atkins.
breaking up
It's on a
again.
better.
No?
I could hear him, but I can't hear. So,
Okay. So moving forward, Mr. Quick, can you please, we need to come up with a time because I know that the other members believe that there's items to speak on, so we need to figure out another date that we could have conversations about the business that's on the agenda.
Ms. Jordan, it's Ms. Gittens. Can I speak, please? Please.
Go ahead, Ms. Gittens.
In my opinion, anything that has to do with our emergency situation with COVID-19 is an emergency. And a major part of that is the resolution regarding that was on the agenda today. And in my understanding, that was the only thing that really constituted an emergency, and that was taken off. I do not understand that. This is, from reading on the 13th when the emergency procedure was given to the superintendent, then it also says it will be reviewed later. We have not as a board discussed it or come to a conclusion on it. I know it's an emergency situation, but I would like to state that this emergency, as severe as it is not the same as a hurricane where in a 5-minute time frame it may turn and something may happen. Things are happening on a day-to-day basis, but we need to make sure that we have the resolution in place and that is voted on and acceptable by everyone. And I just think that if nothing else, we need to have a meeting to discuss what's happening with this crisis. We have not once, as a governance team, discussed any of this.
Okay. Mr. Quick, guidance, please.
Yeah, I mean, if the board would like to meet, I mean, certainly it needs to meet, and it has to be in compliance with the sunshine laws. So, it can meet, we can notice it, and as long as it's in compliance with sunshine and compliance, you can do that. But frankly, I would probably recommend it as just being noticed as a meeting, and then you guys can also use that opportunity for updates as well as to conduct any business that might be of an emergency nature. It seems like that might be the best solution so that you can kill two birds with one stone.
Okay.
So, Mr. Quick, let me ask you this. This is a superintendent. It appears that the majority of our technology issue appears to be resolved. Mm-hmm. Would it behoove us to use this as an opportunity to have that discussion? Would we be able to do that?
I mean, certainly, I mean, you would, as part of, I mean, I guess there has not, nobody has approved the agenda yet.
Correct.
So,
there's still a motion.
but certainly on the agenda there is a part of the that is superintendent updates, and so I would envision that you would use that opportunity. And so if we want to use this opportunity now to provide superintendent updates, I think that it would, it would be appropriate, and it's been properly noticed for this meeting.
Ms. Gittens, may I have one more question? So the emergency piece that is the resolution has been removed. So there is nothing on there basically on the agenda that has to do with our current emergency situation.
It's been
and what I've heard from the superintendent is that he, as a result of pulling the joint recommendation, that he was not intending to go forward with the other action items. But I guess he could pull those, and but we could still have the remainder of the meeting, which would be, I guess, an update, public comment that was provided in advance, and then any other sort of good of the order or any other discussion that might take place.
And what was the reason that the resolution was pulled?
Okay, I will restate what I was trying to state before. You know, we felt that the resolution was necessary for us to be able to make the decisions that we needed to make and of course, levy the resources to provide a proper response. However, you know, we noted that there was considerable, you know, pushback to that joint resolution. I really felt that it was very important for us as a governance team to present a united front, and we felt that at least in the short term that we could conduct business without that resolution, although I would have preferred to have it in place, but felt that a united front as a governance team was more important at this point. And in addition to that, like I said, the items we felt that we had on this agenda, while a layperson such as staff may feel that they were emergency in nature, we had considerable debate, and I'm just being candid, among our legal team, and I think the recommendation that was provided to me today is that they may not reach that threshold, although, again, opinions varied. So therefore, if that was the case, I do not want to, you know, we do not want to go against any directive that would come from the Department of Education, so I felt that the other items would not necessarily need to be moved forward if they weren't deemed to be an emergency. So having said that, I can certainly, with Mr. Quick's input, pull those the remainder of those items from this agenda, but I'm absolutely willing to move forward with providing the board with updates as to what our response has been up to this point relative to COVID-19.
Okay,
Mr.
Betsy
Mr.
Vaughn,
Quick?
may I speak?
Go ahead,
May I
please.
ask a
Betsy.
question?
Please.
All right, so in other words, making sure that I understand this, the way that the governor's or the DOE edict came down to us is that boards can't deal with anything but emergency, that they can't deal with day-to-day voting on day-to-day operations. Is that true?
I think it depends on the item. Like I said, if there is some sort of emergency or timeliness nature to it, the example I've given before is, say you have you're submitting a grant submittal on its face that doesn't necessarily sound like it's an emergency, but there's a deadline next week and it's for $50 million, and if you don't get board approval by next week, you can't submit it, and you would thus potentially be out $50 million for the grant submittal. That would fall within, that is a day-to-day issue, but it would also fall within the emergency nature of the DOE directives, because there is it's time sensitive for various reasons and would have long-lasting impacts on the district and the essential functions of the district.
So in other words, what we're saying is that unless we have some kind of emergency declaration from the board, some kind, I'm not talking about the one we've had, that we can't take care of these day-to-day operation things that we normally do because of the DOE directive. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct, unless it falls within the emergency nature, yes.
The time.
If there's something, I mean, time is the easiest to point to, but if there's something of an emergency nature to it, then that would allow for a meeting to be called.
Is there a way to write something that would that we could feel comfortable on voting on, that would say that the board, I guess you can't use the word emergency, but somehow that the board agrees that these day-to-day issues are emergency report. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know the words to use on this, but that really, that directive then puts a hamstring on a district. In other words, we pass a very broad, sweeping emergency policy, or we're stuck with dealing with day-to-day issues because they're not deemed emergency. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think it's the DOE directives as well as the policies, the board policies that have transferred a number of, at least temporarily, a number of the day-to-day, what you're referring to more as the day-to-day type issues, into the purview of the superintendent, at least during this time period, unless there's an emergency nature attached to it, which he can then bring before the board.
So,
but I don't want to make it sound like he's, the superintendent is operating the district, as I understand it, should be operating the district in the same manner he was doing before. And if there is anything of an emergency nature that requires board approval, then, he will bring it before the board for the board's approval to ensure that the continued operation of the district, runs smoothly and moves forward.
And if I may I hear from Ms. Morgan, Ms. Patrica, or Ms. Giovanelli to see what you all believe or would like to do as well? Ms. Morgan?
This is Chris Patrica.
Okay.
I would like to hear an update from the superintendent. I would like to determine what it is we need to do to get all board members on the same page to sign a resolution or to approve a resolution. And I'm not, I think I sent this in an email, or I spoke with Mr. Quick this morning. I'm not even clear on why a resolution is necessary, given the fact that we already have an emergency policy that gives the superintendent the authority to operate outside the bounds of our existing policies. We're in the middle of an emergency response situation, and I believe the superintendent is conducting himself and staff is conducting itself appropriately and, frankly, above and beyond. And so if I get that a resolution is important to show a unified front from the governance team, but I don't think it's essential for the continued operation of the district. But for me, the most important thing right now is hearing an update from the superintendent. And I think that if he pulls all items from the agenda and simply go directly to superintendent comments, we can get to that and then move on to whatever future items might be necessary with regard to a resolution. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Morgan, please.
I can't add anything to that. Very well said. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Giovanelli?
Well, and actually everything that Chris just said was what I was going to say, is I didn't understand why we have a resolution when we already have the emergency order in place with the policy that we had in place. So I guess at this point, I would just like to be updated instead of, I felt like I was getting information after the fact or the same time the staff was versus being, I didn't feel like I've been included. So, and I think that we're all getting the same information at the same time, so I'm not questioning that. I just feel it's somewhat delayed.
Okay. Well then,
Ms. Jordan, may I make a statement?
Yes, Ms. Gittens. Go ahead.
Basically, what everyone has said is, I agree with. However, I think all of us listened to the FSBA conference, and the only thing that I would like to see on the resolution that is not written anywhere else that we have agreed on is the time frame and also the communication piece. And that I sent Mr. Quick some verbiage that I thought would be possible to use with that. And personally, I believe if we deal with the resolution today and make sure we have everything in there that we need, then the superintendent and the team can move forward, and everyone will be on the same page in
Unified.
agreement, and that everyone receives the information at the same time.
Okay.
And I would add,
So-
I would agree with that, because we don't have a timeline of how long the resolution, is there an end date? And that was one of the things that FSBA, I think Andrea Messina had mentioned, the fact that there should be maybe an end date, and so and that's not in there, if I'm correct.
No, it is not, and you are correct. I was on that call as well, and they recommended that as well, and that most of the districts are doing that, and once that is in there, then everything would be fine. So
This is John. I've communicated with a number of you over that, and I
Yeah.
drafted some language, and if it's going to be considered, if this resolution is going to be considered, that's something that I would present and am prepared to present for the board for consideration as well.
Okay, so then, oh my goodness. So then, Dr. Atkins, can we pull everything with the exception of that resolution and perhaps add a date in that so everything can move forward, and then you have your comments?
Yes, that is my understanding. Just checked with my team again, and they feel that they're confident that we can carry on all regular business at this point. We will, of course, need a meeting in April, but we carry on the regular business at this point without those other items moving forward.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, this is John. My recommendation for the resolution would be, if we have a draft, and I've spoken with a number of you in advance, we consider the draft that's presented, and I will present potential amendments. And if the resolution is ultimately passed with any amendments, I would recommend that it would be a motion to pass the resolution as amended, and we'll state the amendments, and then I can revise the resolution as instructed by the board, assuming it passes and assuming there are amendments. And then that way it can be revised and executed by the chair in accordance with the board's directives.
So, Attorney Quick, this is Chris Patrica. Are you asking for a motion for the proposed resolution
at this point,
with amendments?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, but you're answering my question. Go ahead.
I was saying, at this point, we would still need to approve the agenda, and the agenda, this would be, all items have been withdrawn or pulled with the exception of, I guess this one is L1. So we would need to approve the agenda, and then we would go through our standard meeting, have public comment, and then you guys could consider the agenda item, have your discussion, any motions or potential approvals, and then you could get updates under other business from board members, from the superintendent, from the board attorney.
I appreciate that, Attorney Quick, but I'm a bit confused because I thought that L1 had been pulled prior to the meeting. So I'm not sure how we can approve the agenda with L1 in it when L1 was already pulled.
The request I'm understanding is that the board requested it be placed back. I guess you could, if it was pulled by the superintendent, and the board has instructed that they would still like to consider it. The superintendent has indicated that he is willing to put it back on as a result of the request of the board, and I think that that's appropriate, assuming that's what the board wishes to do.
Or, this is Debbie, or if we could pull all of them and then bring that back on, is it April 7th, the next meeting?
If you would like to consider the resolution at the next meeting, we can do that, and I can make the revisions. If that's the will of the board, I can make the revisions, and we can present it based upon the suggested revisions, which I should note there was at least the one with the end date. There were at least 4 of you who had suggested that to me. So, those are revisions I can make, and we can re-present it to the board if that's how you would prefer to proceed, yes.
Would
Can I
that
make a
work for
motion
all of you?
to that end? I'd like to make a motion.
I prefer that.
Okay. And I'm sorry, who would like to make a motion?
Vaughn. I would like
Okay.
to make a motion that the resolution, the emergency resolution that was prepared for today and withdrawn, that we reconsider it at our April 7th meeting with amendments that
I second that.
with amendments that include, let's see, what were the two things? The date, a date
Time
put
frame.
in there, and there was something else. This is not a.
I think it was a reporting time frame or something like that. It had to do with, updating the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Those two things. Okay. I move that this resolution that was withdrawn today come back before the board on April 7th with the addition of amendments for reporting, for a framework, a time framework, and also language on reports, timely reports to the board.
I second.
And now, Mr. Quick, are we able to do that, a motion for that at this point?
Yeah, you've got a motion on the table in a second, so I think you would.
Okay, because we had a motion for the agenda and nothing ever happened with that at the very beginning. So I just
Well, there was a
wanted to make sure
motion,
we're
but there was no
going
second to approve the agenda,
Okay,
so
perfect.
it would have died without a second.
Got you. Okay, so all in favor of that motion for April 7th to bring back the resolution with some amendments on that? And I don't think we can vote online, so we would have to vote, I guess, by
Just call
voice.
it, just do a roll call, yeah. Just roll call, Debbie.
Okay, Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
Ms. Gittens?
Yes.
And Ms. Giovanelli?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So moving forward, we'll bring that back for our next meeting, which is the April 7th. And now, if Dr. Atkins can then pull all the other items, and then he'll be able to give us his update. Is that correct, Mr. Quick?
Yeah, I would go to public comment before he gives his
Okay.
update. And there were 3 people who submitted public comment, and I can read those into the record as well.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda then would be public comments. Mr.
Well, let's-
Quick, please read. What?
Let's approve an agenda as modified.
Yes.
So that we have that for the record. So it would be, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda, which would really just include at this point, would include public comment and other business, as everything else has been pulled or postponed.
Okay.
Chris
Can I have
Patrica,
a
I
motion,
move that
please?
we approve the agenda to include only items C and N as in Nancy.
Second.
I second.
Vaughn, second.
Ms. Vaughn, second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a vote on that? Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
Yes, please.
Because you already said that. Ms. Gittens?
Yeah.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Yes.
And Debbie Jordan? Yes. So it's 7-0. It passes. 6. Thanks. Okay, so, I'm sorry, 6-0. Ms. Fisher is not here. I apologize. So now, moving forward, we will go to public comments then.
Okay.
So, Mr. Quick, if you will
Pursuant to Executive Order 20-69 in the Department of Education directives dated March 17, 2020, notice was provided to the public that all public comment would be accepted virtually by email. Virtual submissions of public comment were required to be sent to the email address publiccomment@leeschools.net or via a online submission form prior to this afternoon's meeting, and are limited to 450 words to be consistent with Board Policy 1.11 related to time per speaker. I've received 3 submissions for public comment, and I will read those in the order in which they are received. First public comment is from Mr. David Fletcher, address 1839 Hancock Bridge Parkway, Cape Coral, Florida, 33990. And I will read it verbatim. David Fletcher, a former teacher from Michigan Montessori International Academy, whose new name is G River Hips, period, doesn't like that name over Michigan Montessori or Michigan K through 8. Next, he would also like to refer you to an email which explains several discrepancies in his job employment, and those notes you will find in his file or with Annette, CRU, all caps, with Human Resources. He was hired at the wrong pay rate in August 1997. He has 4 semesters of graduate work, was paid as a teacher with a bachelor for 7 years of employment. He left due to an accident in May 2005. In 2003, earned an additional master's. He needs his needs his teacher-student loan repayment form from his files and a letter with dates of employment with the school district. He left in 2005 due to squalorish conditions at the unsteady schoolhouse classroom on a hitch with 2 wheels. For further information, please see the email provided by David to Annette in Human Resources in his file. That is the end of that one. The second public comment, which I will also read verbatim, is from Jacqueline Perez, address 17675 Boat Club Drive, Fort Myers, Florida, 33908. And it reads, I vehemently oppose this resolution for the following reasons. During Hurricane Irma, this was not initiated. Presently, the Florida Constitution specifically states the board has the sole authority to operate, control, and supervise all free public schools in their districts. The superintendent's order takes all your power away as a board. It is imperative that your opinions and judgments weigh in on decisions in protecting the students and their education. With the standing record of your superintendent's mistakes and lack of being forthcoming, you are relinquishing the rights to perform your duties. The most recent false information being told by your superintendent and his staff was the false claim of cleaning buses under 12 minutes. While the instructions of the product you are using state otherwise, and as do the statements I have from employed bus drivers that have complained about these false claims. Those employees requested I include in those 12 minutes their duties are to sweep the bus, clean and disinfect seat belts, the entire seat, top of seat and back of seat, and windows, inspection of the bus, gas up the bus, and their own bathroom break and snack if possible. The instructions of the chemical you are using require 7 minutes to kill all virus and bacteria. It would be an incompetent decision to remove it any time earlier than that. Let us not forget the following issues you have had in conflict with the superintendent. High-level administrator raises, not being informed of JLAC hearing, undercover watermarking of board member documents, investigations being conducted that are biased and amateurish at best, with the outcomes being predetermined, the persecution of whistleblowers, that being Santini, Moreno, Buckner, and Briones, the mistakes of the Teachers' Best and Brightest Fund, the failure of being forthcoming on FMTC. Please do not relinquish your authority. Thank you. And then the last submission is from Jeff McCullers, street address 9962 Country Oaks Drive, Fort Myers, Florida, 33967. I will also read verbatim. The proposed resolution declaring a state of local emergency is an important action, and I support it. The proposal resolution provides the superintendent with immense authority to waive any and all school board policies to ensure the health and safety of our community, and this authority is appropriate given our public health emergency. However, the superintendent should notify the school board in writing and in a timely manner if and when a policy has been waived, and yet there is no such provision in the proposed resolution. I recommend that the proposed resolution be amended to ensure that written and timely notification occurs. I recommend this for 3 reasons. First, adding a notification clause would protect the school board's interest in maintaining oversight and policy controls while also allowing the superintendent appropriate latitude in preserving health and safety. Second, the school board needs to know if its policies are inadvertently creating a burden during this emergency, and the only way they will know this is if the superintendent informs them that he has had to waive such policies. Third, adding this clause would also provide the superintendent with procedural and contractual protection that he certainly deserves. These are hard times, and I applaud the school board and the superintendent for working closely together to promote public health and maintain the continuity of educational programs. That's the end of the public comment submissions that I have received.
Okay, so now are there, I believe that Susan was at the boardroom, or if anyone were to walk in there, so do we have anyone there?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Susan. So, Mr. Quick, that would close then the public comment?
That would conclude public comment, and we can move on then to the remainder of the agenda.
Thank you. So, in saying that, we are now...
Which would be other business.
Other business. So, this is where we're going to have the superintendent then share with us and give us the update as we all discussed. So, Dr. Atkins,
Madam Chair, if you would like to call other business under N1, if normally we start with the school board members. I'm not sure if you would like to continue to start with them, or if you would just like to dive straight into comments or reports from the superintendent.
From my understanding, I thought that's what they were requesting, that the superintendent gave us for us to pull everything so that he could give us the update of what is going on.
Are you still there?
Yes. Yes, I am. Hello?
Madam Chair, may I recommend that we have N3 as our next order of business on the agenda, reserving board member comments in the event a response is needed to the superintendent's update.
I'm sorry, please say that again, Ms. Patrica.
May I recommend that we move N3, which is superintendent's comments, as the next item on the agenda, so that board member comments can come after that in the event they're needed in response to the superintendent's comments.
That's a great idea. So if, then I would like to ask.
Someone has left the conference.
Hello, is everyone there?
Kathleen's on here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Greg Atkins. I'm still here.
Okay, thank you. Would you please go ahead then and give your...
Someone has joined the conference.
I think that's Mr. Quick. Who just joined, please?
Yeah, that's Mr. Quick. Sorry about that. I lost connection.
That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you. And we're moving on to Dr. Atkins will give his report now.
Okay, thank you, board members, and appreciate the patience as we overcome some of our challenges with the technology. Just I want to go through kind of division by division, but let me first start with just kind of an overall. We have, at this point, approximately 6,500 of our employees that are currently working virtually or from home, so that's the majority of our teaching staff, and we are currently in the process of working with 12-month personnel so we can move as many people as possible to work remotely. In visitations with our school principals, I was able to make it out to 3 sites yesterday. Very, very positive, overwhelming in the response of volunteerism to help support both the effort to pass out Chromebooks and also an effort to, to to begin serving the meals, which I'll talk about a little bit later today. But again, they were just very appreciative, lots of appreciation for the support that they have received from the district, particularly as it relates to technology, food service, and of course the academic services team. This work site here, our building, we are starting today. We're going to close this down to visitors, but we will be available to our customers online and by phone. We do have the ability for our employees and people who need to drop off documents to be able to do that at our finance window from 8 to 4:30. So this is direction that's going to be going out to our employees later today. Contractors through maintenance and ISD will continue to work at our school facilities into the foreseeable future. In fact, what our staff is finding is that we do have more of our vendors, consultants that are actually, because of the COVID-19 response, maybe have greater availability to work, which may give us an advantage to be able to accelerate some of our projects, like the implementation of Promethean boards out in our schools is just one example, and other things that we're doing in support of the referendum. So we will have those projects to continue. Division leaders are working very, very hard to develop plans for our employees so we can, again, with the goal of having as many of our employees working remotely as possible. When we are working here in the district office, we are making sure that we adhere to CDC guidelines of 10 or less and maintaining social distancing. So that is, and you've seen a lot of that stuff that's gone out in our COVID-19 update. We will continue to do that as we move forward. Let me go kind of division by division right now. Academic services team, I think, has done an absolutely incredible job with getting information out to have the continuation of our instructional continuity plan. Have received lots of great feedback from teachers and school-based administrators. I'm still meeting with high school principals, as an example, over the schedule individually just to get some feedback, and they've given a lot of positive feedback. And as I mentioned before, just the visitations and emails and so forth. So I think, if you get an opportunity at some point, thank that team. They literally day, night, and weekend to make that a reality, and I'm very proud of those efforts. And I think you'll find, once we get to comparing them, this is probably one of the best, if not the best, in the state. We did recently submit that to Department of Education. We're in the process of doing that right now, so they will also have our plan. So that's kind of the academic services update. From a technology perspective, that team also has done a tremendous job. In fact, they did a pop-up on Sunday to make sure we were getting hotspots out to teachers. Over 130 of those were deployed, and we had over 3,000 deployed for students that have been ordered and will be delivered, which is over and above our original inventory of about 2,500. So at this point, we have been able to deploy 11,307 elementary Chromebook devices assigned to K-5. So, and that continually gets updated. We were able to actually get ahead of schedule on that. So again, a tremendous effort. And that of course continues. We did receive some guidance regarding device. I did receive Ms. Gittens' concerns related to Chromebooks. So thank you, Ms. Gittens, and thank you for being out there and passing them out. I appreciate it. And you weren't the only one. We had other board members out there as well. So thank you all for that effort. We did have a consistent process, we believe, and found that there may have been some schools not following that, but academic services has reinforced that with our schools, so that will continue. They are like, for example, when I was out at Villas, they come in, the the gate, but they don't go into the building, as an example of what's happening there. So let's see, what else? Lunches, we had 3,750 yesterday, and that was a number that was provided to you without all locations reporting in, and we'll continue to update. The feedback that we have received from other districts that we're implementing really, I do have an update. The update that Amy just now that we've got all reporting is 5,409 students that were served yesterday. So we, the feedback we've received from districts that were implementing a week ahead of us because they had spring break the prior week is that we can expect those numbers to increase as we move forward throughout the week. So same, I was talking to Shane Musick out at Villas, like I said, and he mentioned that that's become really pretty much a neighborhood school, and word is getting out to the neighborhood, and so gradually, we think we'll even get more people out there. Plus, we took that feedback back, this team did, and redoubling our efforts to make sure that we're communicating with our community to make sure everybody's aware of those opportunities. Like I said, I'll come back to that one in a minute. Some donations that we have been a part of. Lee Health has asked for our assistance. We provided 4 boxes of 50 blue face masks, 3 cases or 5 boxes of 75 personal protection impervious blue gowns, 1 case of, which is 120, of the N95 masks, 3 packages of 50 yellow isolation gowns, 55 boxes of gloves, and 23 patient gowns. So those are donations that were, we really feel that the top priority in terms of if we have extra materials would be to Lee Health, since they are the front lines. There have been other requests. I think we've had a small amount provided to the Salvation Army, but again, the priority is with Lee Health as it relates to that. There were some questions about the feeding program. If you look around the districts in the state of Florida, and we will provide you a little bit more information relative to what others are doing, we are following a plan that's very similar to what you'll see in other districts like Miami-Dade, Broward County, Collier County, and others. But regardless of that, it's always been our intent with our food feedings program that we would be reevaluating that program as we were going along, and so that is what we did. There was board member brought up a waiver that from the USDA, and actually on March 12th, Lauren, our food service director, did file that waiver with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services on behalf of our district, so that we could serve meals at the time of closure. So school districts report through FDACS to the USDA with respect to complying with requirements for serving meals to students and for obtaining funding. The USDA requires meals to be served to children age 18 or younger, meals to comply with nutritional values established by the USDA, and then we, as you know, we provide 2 meals, 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, and that's what's authorized by the USDA to be distributed on a daily basis. I think somebody had asked for where was that, and we can provide that to you in a later update. So this information regarding the regulation is evolving as these agencies also adapt as we are with this response. So FDACS has released new guidelines that will give us more flexibility for delivering mobile meals. March 17th, we presented our feeding plan to leadership to take effect, as you know, on March 23rd. The plan began with 23 sites and 7 community sites. That has expanded now to 24 school sites and 14 community sites, and our Food and Nutrition Services Department began collaborating with transportation to discuss, possibilities of having our bus operators involved in this plan. So, again, we have grown, but, the 24 school sites that were chosen are the sites that have a high volume of students living within 2 miles. That's why they were chosen. As mentioned, 14 mobile feeding community sites were also chosen due to their proximity to students. But, and these are being supported by the district, preparing meals and transporting those meals to these sites. So, using district, vehicles. Our plan is always meant to be flexible and dynamic, as I mentioned before, and already we have made some adjustments. Yesterday was our first day, and, we had approximately, as I mentioned before, 11,000 meals that were served to 5,400 students. What we are also doing is reevaluating these locations, and we've already decided to expand that at least to, Tice is the next one we're going to add, and also Franklin Park, Harns Marsh Elementary. That will begin in the very near future, as soon as next week. Some other things that we are considering is increasing the marketing. So if you're out there in a community, just make sure you tell people, go to our website, social media, community media. Our media partners have also been helpful in helping us get the word out, like the news report that was done yesterday on the feeding program. That's going to always help. So those type of things are, we continue to try to get the word out. That's why, the county has been gracious whenever they hold a press conference. They've invited us to attend that press conference, and we'll make sure you get notice of that, but that's why we take advantage of those so we can continue to communicate. We are also considering some non-school locations, so they are reviewing that right now so we can utilize our buses to carry food to some designated centralized locations where you have a high student population and some difficulty with maybe parents getting transportation. I mentioned, being out at Colonial yesterday, and one of the things the principal Colonial, while she's in a high concentration area, you've got a lot of her kids are not able to get to her because of transportation. Now, if they live near another feeding site, they can, of course, go there. So that's another important distinction, is that, people will continue to publicize that, make sure that, they just go to one of the sites that are available. It doesn't have to be their child's school. So mobile feeding stops, they are continuing to identify partnerships and potential bus stops so that they can reach the most students. So it's not really efficient to run all of our stops. We have something like 7,000 bus stops, but we are planning to expand and move into some of these higher concentration areas relative to the mobile feeding. Let's see. So she says, in addition, I'm getting information from Amy. They've been hard at work on this since the very beginning, but one housing complex on Pine Island is being added, and one housing complex in Lehigh, and that was, again, based on parent input, calls that we had received, and also some principal input from those school principals. So that's the update from food service. Let's see, human resources, just to give you a couple things there. Angela and her team have continued to work with TALC and SPALC leadership. So we've met with them on several occasions. I think we have 4 memorandums of understanding at this point, or joint communications, I should say, 1 memorandum of understanding. And so that allows us the flexibility that we need with our contract during this period of time. They have had substantial input into working conditions, in terms of how we implement under this new environment that we find ourselves in, because, they obviously have concerns about work schedules, they have concerns about pay, they have concerns about, safety of their employees. So they are communicating with them on a regular basis, I think daily at this point. And then I know Dr. Pruitt and I have a meeting with TALC tomorrow just to continue working on that relationship. So
we're meeting every day.
yeah, they're meeting every day. So we're looping them in on our major decisions that impact our employees, and they have had input into that. We also have a daily communication with the Department of Education, which does occur regularly on most days. That's 4 o'clock. There for a while it wasn't regular, so we'd get a notification, and then we would kind of scramble to get in the rooms. But I have to tell you, they have been very, very. They've been excellent to work with. The commissioner has made some very tough calls, but he's been very clear in his communication with the district, and so I would have to say, definitely hats off to what they have done up there. They've really provided us and our students with some really good direction and relief from some of the requirements like FSA testing and some of the graduation requirements that we have given you. But they're in unprecedented, uncharted waters as well, and they're in a tough situation, but they have definitely stepped up. And I will tell you that having been down here a long time and been working with the Department of Education, this is one where I really appreciate the clarity. So it's a thumbs up to what they've been doing. Jacob Oliva and the Chancellor, and then Commissioner Corcoran, and the governor from that. And you know me, I mean, this is not the politics, but I certainly appreciate in this role receiving that kind of direction. So again, we have those calls every day at 4 o'clock. If there's a major change, it's on all superintendents' calendars, so we will cancel that meeting if they don't have any further update. But if they do have something major, we will get that to the board, because I want you to be aware of it. So it may seem like it's so late in the day, but that's because I think they're having those late in the day, and then we're putting together, trying to put communication out to our employees, to the board, to make sure that you are informed. I think that's all. I'll look to the team to see if there's anything else. I mean, we do have some major challenges still out there, because right now we're going to April 15, and we have a lot of questions that we are working with the Department of Education on as it relates to what if this closure goes longer? What do we do about employees and the contracts? Makeup days. Right now, we are hoping to get some latitude from the Department of Education, and they have said that they are certainly willing to work with districts relative to the requirements for promotion and graduation, but still there may be a need to make up some of the days. And the reason why we have to do that as a school district is because we have a very, very tight academic calendar, and we do have the 6.5 hours for our high school students, which means that, if you're a district that has the 7 hours, you have a little bit more flexibility in the minutes. So Collier County will not have to make up those minutes versus Lee County that may have to. But we're going to work with the Department of Education and do what we need to do to make sure our kids are not negatively impacted by this response and by this containment effort for the COVID-19 virus. So having said that, again, I'm looking around at my team to make sure there's nothing I've missed. I think we're good to go. So that's the update. We will continue to communicate with you, and if there are any suggestions relative to the update that we put out that you'd like to see, please let us know. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Moving forward, we'll go back to the board members' comments. And if I may have Ms. Giovanelli, please start, if you have any.
Hi. Actually, there was one of the speakers.
Melissa, could you please speak up some?
who I am.
Okay.
One of the comments is one of the speakers that was looking for his documents or whatever. I went and forwarded that on to Melissa, and she's taking care of that. I didn't know why felt he needed to have to speak, but I don't know if I wasn't able to get the record. That could be addressed in the public records department. Second of all, I attended a couple of, actually 3 of my schools. I just did drive-bys, and there wasn't a lot of participation in the food delivery, aspect of pickup. So I'm hoping that picks up because I know there's more students that we feed than the 50 to 5,000 or whatever the number is now. And what was it? One other thing. Oh, Dr. Atkins, are buses, any of our buses out? Because I saw one today. So I wasn't sure how that can be.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly check on it. Right now, I think you've seen in our work plan that our bus operators are one of the groups that are staying home at this point, and operations is in contact with other districts as we are with the DOE, because I think that's one of the issues that what do we do relative to bus operators long term? Now, if we move to some mobile feeding, which I anticipate we will be deploying some of those. He's going to check to see if we have anybody out. I know mechanics are working, so there's a possibility they're working on buses and then doing a test drive. That's common procedure.
And maybe that might be the case. It was actually on Edison that I saw the bus. On Edison Avenue by Stars Complex, because that's where I was at that point. That's a possibility. Okay, thank you. What else did I have? Question regarding bus drivers, but they are still being paid, correct? How does that work for them?
Yes, they are being paid at this point. There is a good possibility, and we've been clear with our associations, our employee associations, that we may need them to make up missed days. Like, let's say, for example, this week right now they would be normally working, but if we have to make up 5 days at the end of the year, that would be where that makeup time would occur. If we don't need those days, then that's something that we'll need to talk about rectifying at the end with our employee situations. I will tell you that that's one of the big topics across the state of Florida. It has to do with probably bus operators more than anything else. Collier County, I've been in pretty regular communication with Dr. Patton. They are doing some professional development this week with their bus operators. I did, Dr. Pruitt and I have talked about that, as has Lynn Harrell, and Dr. Savage, because I really feel this is a good opportunity for us to provide some professional development to our employees when, we'd have to do that, of course, virtually or online when we could. So we're working on those plans. I met with Jared Eady earlier and mentioned the same thing to Jared. This would be great. I know Crystal was in yesterday, and they're working on some online diversity and inclusion training that they could push out to those employees. So that's probably our toughest employee question, is our bus operators, if this goes to a long-term closure.
Right. And bus operators, and then their assistants too as well, right? What about those?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Now, I will say, paraprofessors, some of the work groups that were identified as not working this week, that our principals and our school administrators and teachers have identified, like paraprofessionals, are ones that we really think are going to be a huge benefit during this, during this closure for our teachers. Example would be like our ESOL paras. That's a great opportunity for them to be involved in virtual instruction. But again, the bus operators are probably one of our largest challenges.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was concerned, so I understand now. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Ms. Patrica?
Thank you. I want to start by acknowledging the heavy lift by elementary teachers and administrators. I think that the vast majority of our middle and high school teachers and administrators are familiar with Google Classrooms, already have Google Classrooms created, but I don't think that's the case for many of our elementary school teachers. And so I just want to publicly acknowledge the additional work they're having to put in. And Dr. Atkins, I don't want you to answer this right now. I'm putting this out there as a consideration. I believe that the vast majority of our grab-and-go sites are at elementary schools, so the administrators in those buildings are tasked not only with the smooth transition to virtual learning, but also with the supervision of the grab-and-go. Is there a way to rotate administrators in from middle and high school into those elementary schools so that those administrators can focus on the virtual transition while still providing necessary oversight for the food services? That's my first thing. My second thing is, Dr. Atkins, you mentioned the politics associated with Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Corcoran. I have really seen the politics disappear completely, and there is a wholehearted focus on what is best for students, families, and communities. It's been very refreshing. I'm very, very, very grateful for the work that they've done, and I'm also really grateful to Governor DeSantis for putting the control in parents' hands to have their students repeat the grade next year that they're in this year if appropriate learning doesn't take place during this virtual learning time. And I know that there's been some negative pushback on that, but speaking with educators and administrators in other states, they don't have that carrot, so to speak. Governors in other states haven't given parents that authority, and so they're having a hard time figuring out how to get kids to even show up for virtual learning. And I can tell you in my house, my kids know that this is serious. This is real learning that will be taking place beginning Monday, and that the governor has given me the authority to hold them back next year if they don't participate and don't give their full effort. So I think the negative backlash, perhaps that statement was taken out of context. I see it as an extreme positive. I think the beginning of this, oh, go ahead.
My intention of making that is exactly the way you are intending it, because I really felt that the commissioner and the chancellors and the governor all really made these decisions not based on politics, but what was in the best interest of kids. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because it really gives us a lot of comfort here back in our school districts to have policymakers that are willing to take really, the politics out of stuff and really focus on what is in the district's students' best interest. I really felt that's where those decisions were, and that's what I was trying to convey. I hope I wasn't misunderstood, but that's what I was trying to make by that comment. It wasn't political. It was just the opposite, in fact, which gives us a lot of, a good direction in the school district. The other thing, just real quick, on the other item that you raised as a thought, we already have, I found administrators from other levels at elementary schools, including district office administrators at elementary schools and SROs from middle schools deployed at other places. Like I ran into Officer Winters over at Fort Myers Middle Academy. He is the SRO assigned to Paul Lawrence Dunbar Middle School, but because they were not a feed site and Fort Myers was, he deployed over there. Ryan Libby was out at Colonial. He's down here in our district office, just to give you some examples. So a lot of that's already happening.
Well, I appreciate that, and yes, I was basically seconding what you were saying about the politics or the newly found lack thereof in education policy at the state level. I've got just a couple other comments left. The beginning of this call, I think was a good exercise for us as school board members, because I think the frustration that we all felt will be felt by parents and students at the beginning of next week as we roll this out. However, we stuck it out and we figured it out. And Dr. Adkins and Ms. Fisher said in one of their public addresses that there are going to be hurdles placed in our way, and we will overcome those hurdles. And failure is not an option here. So we just have to keep working hard. Dr. Atkins, you and your team have been absolutely fantastic. I have been very happy with the timeliness of the updates that you have provided to us. I think that it's more important for me right now, as we are still in crisis mode, for you to be focused on the work of the district, with the understanding that, and I think you have done this, if a policy change is made, you let us know before we find out from others. And that has been, that's been really, really good for me. I've been appreciative of your focus. Two more things. I want to thank the Florida School Boards Association. FSBA has gotten school board members across the state together for calls to let us know what to expect and to share common concerns, best practices, that kind of stuff. They've really provided fantastic support to us as board members during this time. And finally, Ms. Vaughn will be happy to know that I have completed my census duties for my household. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Okay, I couldn't find my volume button, sorry.
Oh, no.
First of all, I found it, I know. Thank you to the superintendent and all of the staff. As I have safely stayed in my car but driven around to school locations for distributions and of food and of Chromebooks and all of that. Everybody is working really hard. You may have seen when you're talking about schools helping schools, a group from Lehigh Senior went to Mirror Lakes to help them. There's a lot of that going on. I do want to say, though, in talking to some employees, they are still fearful for their families and themselves as they are amongst other and amongst the public. So I am glad that we can say there's 65,000 employees, 6,500 or whatever the number you said, that are working remotely. However, as quickly as we can do so, I think that would help alleviate some of the fears. There have been a couple of situations where employees came in, and once they came in, administrators found out that they had either been exposed or whatever, and they were sent home. But then that left fear amongst the other employees that had, been in contact with them. I think we just really have to keep mindful, and I know that we do, of how contagious this really is. I'm glad to see and to hear that you are considering the needy areas. That had been an issue that I was concerned about, especially out here in East Zone. We're so spread out, and then the students a lot of them don't have transportation. So I was thinking, as we had mentioned before, about having the bus drivers to go out to bus stop areas. That is a very good plan. I've seen other districts that have done that, and it's very helpful. And perhaps, and I'm sure you'll look at this, as to the most needy areas. And like you said, we can't do every bus stop, but we can hit the high ones. I went by Tortuga this morning, and I was there about 10-something, before 10:30, and they had already done 400 plus meals today. And so people are coming. One of the things they said, though, they think some people are going from school to school and getting at each place. And if that's what they need, then that's what we will do. And Dr. Atkins, you did mention the concerns about that I had shared about best practices as far as keeping our employees safe. I was really impressed at Lehigh Elementary this morning. A shout out to them. When you drive up, you're triaged at a tent, and whether you're coming for food or you're coming for a Chromebook, and then they have tables with a number on them, and they radio to the food staff, put 5 meals out on table 3, and then the person just goes down to drives to table 3 and picks up their bags and they leave. So there is no contact with the employees whatsoever. I thought that was fabulous. A lot of them are working really hard to make sure that everyone is safe. The other thing on, thank you so much, and especially a shout out to Dr. Spiro and Irma Lancaster. I had sent them a message on the weekend about whether the parents can use the Chromebooks to do the census, and the answer was yes, let's do it. Thank you so much for that. I'm watching, we have a response site that you can watch how the responses are coming in, and in the last few days we're doing pretty decent. We are, but I noticed too that most of them are online, even though people know that you can do the census by phone. The majority are online. So in your travels and talking to people as far as the census, please encourage them to pick up the phone. They can look at the document online and answer the questions and then just pick up the phone and do it very quickly if they're worried about their minutes. Okay, and lastly, I wanted to bring up the fact of our attorney contract. As we all have agreed, this is a very unusual time and requiring different measures and all that to happen. And I know we have already approved our attorney to come on board, and I believe the contract has been negotiated or whatever is being worked on. In the meantime, though, I would like to suggest that we have that overlap period to start sooner than later. A lot of the things that we're having to do and to change at this time, who knows how long these situations will be in effect and how they will affect us as a whole. So as these major changes and major occurrences, I believe that our new attorney should be privy to things that are going on, to be aware so that there is a smooth transition. And I did notice that I looked back at when Mr. Dodick was hired, and I watched that process, and I did see some things that we need to make sure that we do for our incoming attorney as well. So I don't know if on the 7th we can somehow add the fact of making sure we finalize everything for our new attorney, and in the meantime that it would be okay for her to at least get emails or be privy to what's going on so that you can hit the ground running as well. I had one more thing, I can't think of it. And Mr. Quick, I wanted to ask the question. When the superintendent does an update, and I know anytime we meet that it has to be public and all that type of thing, but I'm wondering if we could do some sort of a process where we send in questions or thoughts or suggestions prior to a call, and then the superintendent would just update us and answer our questions as a whole, to kind of help that, communication piece. And I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just thinking out of the box, it might be a way for us to hear firsthand on a maybe a weekly basis or something like that, and answering our questions.
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead.
what you can do is if there are specific questions you have of the superintendent and would like for him to include in his update, that, each board member should email the superintendent. I would not copy other board members, because as those communications go back and forth regarding updates, you don't want it to be potentially a communication between board members, as opposed to a communication directly with the superintendent. And then the superintendent will provide his regular updates, and can address any questions that any individual person may have, and that way he can be educated and make sure that he's prepared to answer whatever those questions may be during the update. So I would suggest that you email it to the superintendent so that he can get the information he needs, but would caution against copying all board members on that.
Okay. Well, as long, and that's fine, as long as we make sure that someone, when the answers are done, that all board members are copied. Because actually it could be saving time, and one person has the same question that 3 other people have. So if we are, all copied on all of the questions and the answers, that would be good. And I believe,
I envision that the superintendent, when he provides the update, will be providing updates to everyone so that he can, so everyone will be updated, and it will include any individual questions that may have been raised by an individual board member.
Right, okay. I think that that's all the specifics, just telling everyone stay safe, and thank you for all that everyone does.
Thank you, Ms. Gittens. Ms. Vaughn, please. Do you have any comments?
I do. I do have, I'm going to start with a question to Dr. Atkins regarding the people that are doing the food distribution. Has there been any safeguards, for instance, like checking temperatures, body temperatures, to see if they have fevers or any possible symptoms before they go out?
Yes, our school nurses have screened our food service workers, like temperature, et cetera, prior to them being deployed.
Great. I think just even that statement will make everybody in the community feel a little better as well, just to know they're being screened. I know I worry about pickup at restaurants and that sort of thing, but good. Thank you for that. I think that's a great thing. Okay, I'm really glad that Ms. Gittens brought up the census, because I have a note to say don't forget about the census, and keep in mind that programs like the ones we've been talking about, feeding the kids, these are federal programs, and we, get the money, and the amount of money that we get has to do with the number of people that we're servicing. And I did a couple days ago send out the link to everyone that Ms. Gittens was talking about. So at any given time at census.gov, you can check out and see how Lee County is doing versus Florida, actually any state and even smaller municipalities, and I think that's just kind of interesting. Okay, and another thing is, so there goes my other phone. I think, most of the time when we talk about students and teachers and big tests, we probably would say that students are just thrilled that they're not having to take a big test. But I was honestly very sad to hear this week that actually around the world, the Cambridge ACE tests are canceled, as are the International Baccalaureate tests. And I just want to do a shout out to all those teachers and students that have worked so hard in preparing for these tests. It's you know, you can say, well, it's not in vain, because I know students of mine, in the past, I taught AP for many, many years. Even if they weren't to take the test, the course would benefit them for college and for the future. But, you know, I know there's going to be a lot of disappointed students and the teachers, and I don't know that we can have any answer on this. I have a couple teacher friends that teach the majority of their day with advanced classes, the Cambridge classes. And I'll ask Dr. Atkins, the money, the bonuses that they get, that comes from the state, doesn't it? For the students that they have that pass those tests?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So that's going to be something that, you know, they're not going to be having those bonuses this year. And I know that has brought a couple of my friends nearly to tears on that, because when you work, that's why I'm wanting to put it out here. So, you know, give these teachers an extra, well, you can't even hug them these days, but a virtual hug, because, you know, I know for a fact that teaching the advanced coursework, it is extra prep. It is extra grading. And these teachers take it so seriously when it's time for the tests and prepping the kids. So this is really a major disappointment all the way around. I mean, it can't be helped. It has nothing to do with us as a school district, but maybe send out virtual hugs to those teachers and the kids that are affected. The other thing is I wanted to send a shout out to Dr. Spiro and Academic Services. I know I sent in a comment and an idea based on my prior teaching experience, and I had a couple teacher friends that I talked with, and they said, well, we think this would be, and I said, hey, send it in. He's going to be receptive to these things, and comments that I saw from Dr. Spiro was keep the ideas coming in, and it's one of these things that even when you put all the very good brains together in academic services who have been planning for these things, somebody out there always has something else, or a tweak, or something that they've learned in the past. And so I think it's great that academic services is so accepting of ideas and asking people to continue to send them in. So I look forward to hopefully, you know, I hate to say seeing the spike, but you know what I'm saying, the curve when these cases go down, but it looks like it's going to be a while, so we're going to be in for the long haul. But I compliment everybody who's been working so hard and putting out so much information to make sure that our kids and our employees are safe, and that we're doing the very best that we can to have our kiddos continue to learn and grow. And that's all I have to say.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Vaughn. Ms. Morgan?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Ms. Gittens for her suggestion about the census. I thought that was brilliant. And in just listening to Ms. Vaughn speak, I'm thinking, could we also put signage at the schools where there's grab and go, where, you know, now they have the sandwich boards that say your child's on time or your child is late? Can we put up handmade signs and just say, grab and go is federal support for public education. Make sure you file your census form. Because I think
I'm going to interrupt. It's Betsy. Love it.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I also like Chris's idea of Ms. Patrica's idea about having principals at the higher levels come to the elementary schools. When I was at Benita, Alex Dworsky was there from Hearns Marsh Middle helping out Rob Cooper, and I think it was good for both of them to have two principals there. I will say that, like everybody else, I am absolutely stunned by the amount of work that has been accomplished by particularly academic services, but also financial services and the food service and other areas. At the amount of work that got done last week. You know, I was at Benita Elementary Thursday, I just briefly on Friday, and then I was there Saturday morning. So well organized. And the staff is so confident. And the parents who come to Benita Elementary, I'm thinking that of all of the parents I saw, there might have been 3 who were English speaking. All of the rest were non-English speaking. And I got to sit with a woman who was, doing all of the conversation with the parents. And then she would comment about what the parents were saying. She would tell me what she had said to the parents. And essentially, it was just they were getting such a positive message about the fact that the school was there for them, the principal was there for them, the teachers were there for them. So that the primary question that was sort of left hanging, and I did communicate this with Dr. Atkinson, and I was told by Lauren that Dr. Spiro is working on this. The primary concern coming from those parents was, if I have 4 children and 1 Chromebook, how do I organize my day? And so I just sat there with a teacher who was also handing out Chromebooks or in the Chromebook handout line, and we sort of brainstormed sort of a basic schedule and sent it off to Dr. Spiro, and he said they are working on it. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Oh, I also managed to speak to a district employee over the weekend who was just extraordinarily positive about the work that went on in the district, talking about the level of expertise, the commitment, and she was basically saying it's from the top of the organization right down to the person in the kitchen. Everybody is in on this. Everybody is very positive. And I think it just comes from the confidence in leadership. And the confidence in leadership comes from this culture that has been created in the district where everybody's in this together and none of us is doing it alone. And because we're all in it together, we can all get this done. So I think those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Ms. Jordan? Ms. Jordan?
Yeah, can you hear me, Ms. Kitten?
Oh, yeah, okay, now I can. Can I just make a comment to Ms. Morgan to answer one question?
Sure.
Okay, she asked about, getting the word out. One thing, the Census Committee out here, we printed 10,000 flyers, and we have distributed them to all of the schools that are handing out Chromebooks and food.
That's good.
So they're handing them out along with those items. So thank you so much, and it is working. And also, as part of the kudos for Dr. Spiro and Irma, they are preparing a visual to let parents know about using their Chromebooks, but also that they can do their census on there as well. So thank you all for that.
Thank you, Ms. Kitten, and thank you, Ms. Morgan. The only thing I have been going around to the sites as well, and I know a lot of the areas that I have been going to. The kids are not up. They're not up until 10 o'clock. So this week they'll probably get used to getting back up and, coming earlier, but I know from 9 to 10 they had very low turnouts in some of the communities that I was in. But also, I mean, the biggest thing for me is how much I appreciate all of you, and I'm just amazed how much work that you all have done. I mean, hard work, it was grace. And I'm really proud to be part of this organization because of that. But so that's what I have to say for all of you, because you all have families and you have, put them aside to make sure that everybody else was taken care of, and I really appreciate that. And second, I think I made an error. I don't know where I came up with April 7th in my head, but I don't think we have a meeting on April 7th. I think our next scheduled meeting is the 20-something. So,
no, the agenda says April 7th.
Oh, it is an action meeting. April 7th is the next scheduled action meeting, but I know there was talk about one of the. Okay, I am correct. Okay.
Yeah, you are.
I was like, Lord, what did I just do? And this is all new to all of us. I mean, so we all have got to be in this together. I mean, it's just really trying times for everyone. And I'm happy to be a teacher as well right now, and I have no idea what that's like, what you all have gone through, but I'm learning. I have a schedule, and I'm learning every day with her. So I just think this is a good opportunity for all of us to even think about, being thankful for even, that in itself. And that's all I have to say. I'm just really proud to be a part of this team. And with that, we have Mr. Quick. Do you have any board comments?
No, just wanted to let you guys know that we've been working, around the clock on these issues as they're changing. I want to say daily, but in all honesty, a lot of times they're changing hourly. So we are working with the state governments as well as with staff to ensure that the school board is in compliance with all laws and is best able to meet the needs of the community and the public, while also respecting the guidelines set out by the CDC as well as the state authorities. So I just wanted to let you know that we are in constant contact with everyone, and our biggest concern is making sure that you guys have all the information and that the district is in compliance with all of the regulations and executive orders as they come down, and we will continue to do that. I also wanted to mention that with regard to Ms. Gittens had mentioned that she would like to, for the Ms. Dupuy-Bruno, who has been selected pending an agreed-upon contract. I have been communicating with her when it comes to issues related to this, to what's going on in this emergency situation. So I wanted just to make sure that the board is aware of that, and I will continue to communicate with her because I want to make sure that the transition from us to her is seamless and that she's able to come in and be successful from day one. And so we will continue to do that, but I wanted to make sure that you all are aware that I have been communicating with her on these types of items, and there hasn't been any type of attorney-client communication, so that hasn't been a concern. So she's been I speak with her, I guess, probably daily, sometimes multiple times a day, and so she's aware of the changing situation as well as our interpretations, and I get her input as well. Other than that, those are my updates.
And I'm sorry, I forgot to ask one question to Dr. Atkins, and I know this is not, a lot of the proms have canceled it. They were supposed to take place this month. And of course we have graduation that will be coming up soon. We can blink our eyes and it's going to be here. I'm sure that you all are thinking about how that is going to look. And when you start speaking about it, you'll be sending us the updates on that for these kids. I mean, it's going to be different for them. We know that already.
Yes, that is correct. It's still a ways out, but, the way it looks like things are going, we're going to have to make some changes, obviously, and we will get that information out to you. It's, again, another thing that we talk about as superintendents when we talk to the Department of Education. That does remind me, however, that I was on a conference call this morning with the Foundation for Lee County Public Schools, and the Golden Apple and some of their other events have been canceled. They're working on doing potentially a 1-hour special. We're working with Waterman Broadcasting so that there could be an opportunity to have some type of a ceremony, and then maybe looking at postponing some recognition to further a little bit later. So that's something new I heard just this morning. Wanted to pass that on to you as well. They are still continuing with the state of the schools at this point, but that might be a different format as well, although they didn't really get into that. So that's something that will be discussed further by the Foundation Board. The last thing, it was mentioned about the feeding. Dr. Desamores does say that they are going to implement an extension of time to 12:30, and we'll say next week at the latest for that one. So wanted to give you that as well.
That's great. And thank you for that response. Okay, so where are we? So the next scheduled meeting of the board, I'm sorry, does someone else have something?
It's Ms. Gittens, and I just wanted to give a shout out to our news stations, because I noticed last night there are a couple of them, like one of the weathermen was helping out the schools and had taped a session on clouds so that the teachers could use it with the distance learning. So thank you to the community people as well that are helping, like the TV stations and all.
Yes, true. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, the next scheduled meeting of the board will be on April 7th, and that will be an action meeting at 1 o'clock. And at this point, having no other business to come before this body, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. And thank you all for being so patient with me as well.
So great job, Debbie. So moved.
So moved. And second by?
Yeah.
And is that Ms. Gittens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I get a
Good job, Deb.
vote on that?
Oh, we can vote. We can vote. It's on the.
We have to vote, please. Okay, Ms.
You have
Giovanelli?
to call it out.
Yeah.
Ms. Gittens?
Yes. 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 But no. If you look on your computer, you vote. Susan sent a vote. I just hit yay.
Susan sent it to us?
Yep, I got it.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It is on.
Vote.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll get that.
Debbie, good job.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have it, guys.
You have to bring it up, so can Susan vote for you then?
Ms. Gittens, can I vote an affirmative for you?
Yes, because I don't see your email. Thank you.
And Ms. Vaughn as
It's
well?
not an email.
Yeah, mine timed out. Vaughn, yes.
Okay, thank you. Unanimous, 6-0.
6-0. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everyone.
Can we get
And
an
everybody,
update on
please
the
be safe.
fixes?